Good afternoon and welcome to day 2 of Call Tracking Metrics Academy. It is 2 o'clock, so we're going to go ahead and get started right on time today. But before we begin, we always like to go over a few logistical items first. Really that this material is not to be reproduced or duplicated, so please don't do that. We do have some course requirements, more like recommendations. One is that you log into your call tracking metrics account. 2 is if you have 2 monitors, we would recommend using those. One to have the presentation on one screen, and then the other one to have your own CTM account open. Because in today's course, we're going to do a lot of working sessions, so a way that you can see the material side by side. And also we recommend that you use the latest version of either Chrome or Firefox and have pop-ups enabled. If you're new to CTM, you could head over to our website and sign up so that you can have an account to work with. And today what we're going to be covering in the first part of today, we're going to be looking at the call log navigation. We're actually going to go through all the nitty-gritty of the call log. We're going to really dissect all the little parts of it. We're going to talk about call scoring. We're going to look at the call log columns. We're going to look at dial statuses, filters, and exports. We're going to touch on the Softphone. And then in the second part of the day, we're going to look at IVR menus, transcriptions, keyword spotting, notifications, and schedules. So we have a lot to do today, and I will try to keep this under 2 hours. Typically, this one tends to go to just a few minutes past 4 Eastern time. So with that said, my name is Jessica Michaels. I'm going to be your presenter today. I'm our Google Guru and Product Coach here at Call Tracking Metrics. If you want to look me up, I'm on LinkedIn, I'm on Twitter, so we can connect. So I like to start the day with a few exercises just to make sure we're all familiar with our GoToWebinar panel and make sure that everyone can both hear and see me. So if you can hear me, will you raise your hand on the GoToWebinar panel? So let's see if we can make sure everyone can hear me. All right, I see hands going up across the board. Good, good. And if you can see me, raise your hand or see my screen. I guess it's a picture of me too, so it's kind of both. All right, I see hands going up. Good stuff, good stuff. Now, throughout the course, at any time, you can enter a question into our question panel, and then we'll address them. We have some people who will just be listening to address questions, or we might address them during a break or during our question Q&A at the end. So if you can find the question box, tell me a little something about yourself. Tell me what your role is in your company. See what roles we have attending today. I see we have an account manager. Welcome. We have an owner, administrative coordinator, account managers, marketing director, internet marketing manager. We have CEOs. We have VP of strategy. Welcome. It's actually cutting some of these off for me. Director of client support. Welcome. All right, well, it looks like everyone's finding the question box fine, so it looks like we're in good shape. And if you attended yesterday, you know that I also like some polls. So here's our first poll of the day. And it is, did you attend yesterday's class? Pretty simple, yes or no. All right, just give it just a minute to see. All right, looks like about 75% have voted. So it looks like a majority of us did attend yesterday, so welcome back. And about 15% of us did not attend yesterday, which is fine. We welcome you. What we're going to do is we created an account, a call tracking metrics account yesterday, and we did some real basic setup that we're going to be expanding on today. So really all we did was purchase and configure 2 numbers, and then today we're really going to build it out. So feel free to follow along, or if you can, create an account and then catch up to where we are. So excellent. Let's see, do I have any other polls? Nope, so let's go ahead and get started. So in this first part, we're going to be covering the call log navigation, tags, call scoring, the Softphone call settings, transcriptions, keywords, and the spam detective. So we have a lot to cover today. For this first part, we're going to be switching back and forth. I'm actually going to use an account that I already have created because it has some more robust data in it. So we'll be switching between the presentation and then a live account. So let's go ahead and begin. So the first thing we're going to cover today is the call log toolbar that we have here. So up first, we have our filter icon for number 1. This is where we can create views using a filter. So we'll actually be covering this pretty well in depth today. So we're just going to kind of hop over all of actually explaining exactly what the filter can do. And then next up we have our search box. So you can really type anything in here and it will create a filtered call log for that. So common ones that I use are like CPC. So it'll pull up all the calls that have CPC data attributed to them. It will actually read transcriptions as well if you have those enabled, or you could search by contact. So if you are looking for a call from, say, George Michael, you could type in George Michael here and it would pull up all of the call history we have for a George Michael. So number 3 here, this is going to be the number of calls that we have. If we click it, it will expand out. And then number 4 is to auto load calls. So we can stop that or turn that on. So auto load is really great when you're actually trying to receive calls, but if you're more of a report manager or you're just trying to look at the call log as a report, you might want to disable the auto load because all your live calls will populate up top. So good use cases for both having this on and having that off. So number 5 here is going to be desktop notifications. So you can enable or disable that. Sorry, we jumped backwards somehow. So number 6 is going to be our columns that we can view. So you can actually customize your call log. You can add or remove different columns. So if something's irrelevant to you, it doesn't have to take up your space. You can disable that. So number 7 is our call log export icon. So if we click this, we can create an export, which is another item that we'll be covering today. And then number 8 here is our receive calls icon. So we could start and stop accepting calls using our Softphone, hitting this button. And then number 9 is our Softphone icon. So if we clicked on this, it would actually pop out our Softphone. So I'm going to real quick switch into a live screen so that we can see this in action. So here we go. Here's a live account that we have. So this is our filter. So I could create all sorts of filters for the call log. I can pick a date range, filter by tag, by type, whether it be inbound call, form. You can even add in text. We're going to be covering this in great detail later, so I won't get into all the nitty-gritty of it. And then again, this is where we have our search bar, so I could very easily type in something like CPC, and I'll pull up all my calls that just have CPC, or if I was looking for a specific campaign, like my first shopping ad, it'll pull up all the calls from that. So this is nice for a quick filter. Then again, this is going to show us the total amount of calls that we have. This is how we can enable or disable the auto load. This wasn't on that option bar because this is only available on the contact center plan. So that will actually embed the Softphone right here into the call log. Let's go ahead and exit that. And then this is our desktop notifications. We can decide if we want to receive them. And then if we do want to receive them, for what? Do we want them for all calls and text messages? We can decide. And then our columns here. So you can see we actually have some of these disabled. So if I wanted to see something like my e-commerce, I could enable that, and then it will show that panel. Go ahead, disable that again. This will bring us to the export, which we'll be covering this today. So we'll actually exit out of that to start accepting calls or not. And then if we click the phone, then we can have the Softphone pop out. So pretty straightforward. So let's head back into the log, or I'm sorry, into our deck. And throughout this presentation, I'm going to be switching back and forth between a bunch of screens. So please let me know if I am showing the wrong screen, because that tends to happen from time to time, and I am only human, so I tend to make errors. All right. So the next thing we're going to discuss is the icons that show up in the contact box. So most of these are pretty straightforward. This is going to be signifying that this was an outbound call. The green one with the arrow pointing in is for an inbound call. The notebook icon is visible when there's notes that are entered into the call, because we have a note section. The target icon is displayed when there are keywords that have been detected using our keyword spotting tool, which we'll be covering today. We have gender icons, which show if we have gender information present about the caller. We have the transcript icon, which will display if you have transcripts enabled and we have transcribed the call. The phone with the little slash through it is a spam level icon. So this will appear if we detect that the call is potentially a spam call. And then we have our little blue man score icon, and this is where we can input a rating and conversion for the call. So I'll jump back into the call log real quick so we can see this stuff in action. Maybe I need to, nope, it won't let me zoom in. Maybe, yeah. So this is, inbound call. This is going to say that we had a transcription. If we click into it, it'll actually show us the transcription. Seems to be a small call or short call. Yep, this is when we were able to find out gender information about the call. We actually didn't include this, but this is going to be for a form submission. So if it's not a call and it's a form, we'll display that icon. So those are our contact icons. All right, let's head back over to our deck. Okay. So up next, we have more on the contact information. So what we have, number one here is the phone icon. So if we actually wanted to call this person back, we can just simply click this, and it will pop out the Softphone and auto-populate the phone number that was entered. Number two is the edit icon. So if we click that, it'll expand, and then we can edit all sorts of information about the contact itself. Number three, this is going to be the caller's name, the caller's phone number. Number five, this is going to be the location of the caller. And then number six we have is any tags that have been associated with this call. We have lots of various ways that we can tag calls. We'll be covering a few today, but these are different ones. Voicemail, need to call back. So that's all pretty straightforward. Don't think we need to jump into the call log to expand more on those. So if you were to have clicked the edit icon in the contact column, it would expand to bring something out quite like this. The first item on the list is going to be the contact. So if we had this expanded right in here, it would be showing us the callers, all the contact information that we have pulled for that caller. Up next is going to be the visitor detail. So this is going to show us the actual website session that we've associated with the call. Then we have the score column, so we could score the call. We could do a star rating. We could say it converted and actually enter a sale amount. Next, we have the email icon. This will allow us to send an email to someone about the call, which is kind of cool because it also gives us the option to include the call recording. So maybe I'm on a sales call and I want to send the prospect the recording and transcript of the call. I could very easily do that by coming here and then just putting their email address in and attaching the recording. So up next, we have the voice analysis. This is going to show the transcription of the call, and depending on what features you have enabled in the call settings, it'll have the recording. If it's a dual channel recording, we'll actually be able to speaker segment it for you. You can do some cool stuff. We'll be showing a lot more information on all of these throughout the course today. So next here we have, jumpy today, the call flow. This is going to show us the path the call took through your routing. So if a caller comes in and then hits your IVR menu, it's going to show you that. It's going to show you what buttons they took on the IVR menu, who it rang to. So it really breaks down all the steps that the call process took. If you have a Salesforce integration, we'll have this here so that you can see the information we have about the caller in Salesforce. It'll mirror the information. And then if you have scripts, you can see the scripts to help how you handle the call. So that is the call log icons in the contact. So I will switch in real quick and show you what that looks like. So here we are, and here we have, this is me. So if we had clicked edit, now we have the options. Now, if you have different custom fields like I've created here, they'll show up here as well. So first we have the contact. So it'll have all the basic contact information we were able to capture about the caller. The visitor information. So this is actually going to tell you the website that I was on. Show you where I was on the map, any cookies that we were able to identify, all the campaign information about the caller, the call ID. Every call that comes into call tracking metrics will have a unique call ID. I will actually be covering all of these in pretty good detail in some future slides, so I'm just gonna kind of breeze over them. So here's scoring. If we had scoring tags pre-configured, they would show up here. We could rate it on a star rating. We could say it was converted, enter a conversion amount. We could say that the conversion took place on a past date. Since this was a form entry, you can see some of the information from the form. And then if I wanted to email it, I could put in the email addresses and have it go to them. And this is where we can say include things like the recording of the call. So this was a form submission, so there was no, let's go to this one. So here's our voice analysis. So this is pretty cool. We can actually change the speed. So if we wanted to listen to the call slowed down or sped up, we can do it here. We can play the recording, we could download it, and then we can read the transcription. So the flow, this is again just going to break down the path that the caller took. So they could say they entered the voice menu, which then routed them to the after hours voicemail. And then this was the message that I heard. And then all the way down to me exiting. Yep, these are custom fields that we entered, so we'll jump over those. And then had we had any scripts, here's one that I put into, so you can customize the scripts. I believe we'll be covering this not tomorrow, but the day after. So it could be a script for your agents to read as maybe they answer the phone. So I thought, it's a delicious day here at Coco Loco. How may I assist you? So just little tools to help guide your agents. And then this account is integrated with Shopify. So then we have a Shopify record as well. So that is the fields that come out when you expand the contact edit. All right, making our way through the call log. So one of the next columns we have is going to be our source. So this is going to be the tracking source we attributed to the call, the actual tracking number that that the caller dialed. And then number 3, this is going to be showing the landing page that the caller hit before they place the call. This is going to be showing us the referring website. Number 5 here, if we're able to capture the keyword searched, we'll show you that here. Number 6, this is going to show us the visitor detail likelihood. So what this is really saying is how accurately or how confident we are that this session matches the caller. So this is 99%, so that is pretty good. Yep, so number 7 is the actual likelihood score. And then number 8 here is our Google Analytics icon. So this is going to appear, and that's going to indicate when we sent data into Google Analytics. So it's a nice quick view to know if we sent an event into analytics. If this icon is not there, we have not sent an event. If it's there, we did. And then in the case that we're able to capture campaign data about the call, we will show you a little preview of that right here. We'll tell you that the medium was CPC and that I believe the campaign was men's hats. So that is the visitor detail information. I don't think we need to show that in the call log because that's pretty much straightforward. So next we have the visitor detail. So the likelihood, again, is going to show us the likelihood that we matched the caller to the visitor session. So we definitely want that to be a high likelihood. If you're seeing something, like 75, 40%, that's when we would recommend adding additional tracking numbers into your number pool so that we can get that accuracy higher. Then we also have the ability to check for other sessions. So if you do have a really low likelihood, we can click the check for other sessions button and it will show us the other sessions that are a possible match. So in a perfect world, there would be, no likelihood of a different match. The accuracy would be high enough. And then if we click this, it wouldn't be listing anything. So we also will tell you advertising data, which will be information pulled through the Google Analytics information. We'll display what cookies we identified on your website. So that would be something like, the Google Analytics tracking cookie. If you're using marketing tools like HubSpot or Marketo, we'll tell you those cookies. We'll also display the map, which will show the location of the visitor. Oops. And then the check analytics button, which is actually really cool. That will bring up a screen and show us what information we sent into Google Analytics. So this I am actually going to show you in the call log because talking about it doesn't mean that much, helps to see it. So let's go ahead and jump into the call log. Here we go. So here we go. So this, if we click in here, it will expand. This is our visitor information. So had this person been browsing all over our site, we would actually see all the historical listings. This is going to be the analytics property we recognize on the page. All the campaign information we're able to pull from Google Analytics. The cookies we identified, the map of where the user was, which is pretty exact. That's where we are, call tracking metrics located. Here's where we could do the check for other sessions. So if there was another session that we thought would match to this, it would show here. But we have a really high likelihood, so it's not going to show us a different session. Let's click back in here. And then if we scroll to the bottom, this is where our check analytics button is. So this is going to tell us that we did successfully send an event into analytics. It's going to tell us the category of the event, which was inbound calls, and then it's going to tell us what property we sent it to. And then it's actually going to tell us some information about that event that we sent. So it's going to tell us the source and medium. In this case, it was Google and CPC. It's going to tell us the event action, which in this case was Google AdWords, the category of the event, inbound calls, the label of the event, which is made up of 4 parts, which is going to be the label of the tracking number that was dialed itself, whether or not this was a first time or repeat caller, and then the actual call ID. So the event value, which we send, is actually seconds of talk time for a general event, and then the date and hour that we sent it. So we'll tell you a lot of information about the event we sent in analytics. So that's a really great troubleshooting tool. We'll be covering a lot more about our integration with analytics tomorrow. So that is our visitor detail section. Lots of information in there. All right. Moving on, what we have up next is the scoring box. So just about every marketer out there knows how important it is to be able to attribute a phone call back to a specific marketing channel using phone call tracking software like, call tracking metrics. So while it's fantastic that your phone is ringing off the hook, do you know which of your campaigns are bringing in the best qualified leads and which ones are converting to sales? Now, this is why the call scoring column is particularly useful. So I'm actually going to jump back. Oops. There we go. So here we have the score column. What's really awesome is that we can filter around the scores. We can do reporting around the scores. So it really helps distinguish between quantity and quality. So I can give a great example for this. Before I became our Google guru and product coach here at Call Tracking Metrics, I was our marketing manager for the last 3.5 years. And with that, I handled a lot of our advertising campaigns. And one of the things that I love is that we really use our own product. So I released this new AdWords campaign, and it was actually targeting the Softphone. And one of the keywords that I was using was internet phone. And our phone started ringing off the hook. And it turns out what all these people were looking for was actually more of a Skype feature. So if I was looking at sheer quantity, it would look like that campaign was super successful. But with the use of scoring the calls, our sales team was able to use a star rating and say, these were 1 to 2 star calls, and then they could actually even put a quality, a reporting tag. They could type in that they were looking for something like Skype. So that helped me as a marketer understand that this was actually not a positive keyword to be using since it was driving the wrong type of traffic. So there's a lot of use cases for the call scoring. And it's also great for the campaigns that are doing well to say, this was a 5-star lead. And if the lead actually converted to a sale, we could say, converted, then say they signed up for, a marketing plan, $99 a month. So you could say this is actually a $99 conversion. And if we leave this blank, it'll date it for the time that I score it. So then I can hit save. And now I have a 5-star lead that converted to $99. So really useful for distinguishing between quality and quantity. And we'll be doing a workshop today with the scoring. switch back to my slides. All right. So actually, that's what we're going to cover next, configuring the call scoring options. So what's fun is with our call scoring column, it's completely customizable. So we can actually change the name of it. So rather than being score, we could say, call it sale. We can enable or disable any of the fields. So if we didn't want the people or our client agents to be able to mark it as converted, we could remove that field. The converted amount, we could remove that field. We can do some fun stuff with the tags. So let's actually just switch in and do a quick demo of that. All right, so to edit your call scoring column, we come to our calls and then we have call scoring. And here's where we can change and customize all of our different fields. So we could just fully disable it. Now this is where we can name the column. By default, it's score, but I could say, sales or QC, quality check, something like that. I'll just leave it at score for now. We could, disable whether or not people can mark this as converted. We could change the field name if we wanted it to be sale or, any other creative name that applies to your business. Same with the converted amount. We could enable or disable this. We can customize what we want this name to be. So it could be sale amount, or maybe you're a cruise line and you're selling cruise packages. So maybe you could say cruise amount or something like that. We could enable or disable tags being entered into the score column. Now, what I think is really cool is the reporting tags. So these are going to be directly related to the call scoring. And what's nice is that we can give the ability to limit the tags and create a list. Now, why this is important is you can manually type in any tag, or you can make a list. Now, the issue with giving your agents free reign to type in a tag is that we can do reporting on this. And if somebody types in sale, one agent types in sale, and then the next item type or agent types in sales, even though they're both referencing a sale, it's going to report as different things. So creating a drop down makes it easier to have your reporting cleaner. So I could say, sale, lead. We like to use a term around here called Mars, and that's when we have people who call in and what they're asking for is just, like out of this world. We like who knows what, like Skype, for example, that was like a Mars thing. So you could create a list so that this way it'll be consistent throughout your reporting. So we can go ahead and hit save on that. Whoop. We also have the ability to add notes. If I wanted to disable notes, I could do that right here. So those are how we can customize our call scoring column. So we jump back in. Now, if I come to converted, my tags, now it has my list of tags that I created. So it just gives you more control for your reporting. Good stuff. Let's move along. All right. Here we go. So the next column over is going to be our audio and metrics column. These are pretty straightforward. The audio is going to be a quick link to the recording. It'll by default tell you the length of the call. And then up next is the metrics. So that's going to tell you the basic metrics about the call, which is going to be the date and status of the call, which I believe is what we'll be covering next, the status. Yep. So we have a few different statuses for a call. One is answered, which means that the call connected to its destination route. Completed means that the tracking number accepted the call and the caller interacted with the call route, but the call was not answered, as in it routed to a queue or an agent or a receiving number. In progress means that the call is currently in progress. That's pretty straightforward. We had hang up, which is when the caller hung up before the call finished routing. So that might be someone who hit your IVR menu and then didn't make a selection. Busy means we routed the call to a receiving number and reached a busy signal. So our tracking numbers themselves will never have a busy signal, but if they're routing to a receiving number, that's when they'll hit busy signals. Failed means that the call could not be connected. We definitely don't want to see that. And then we have no answer, which means that we routed the call to an agent or a receiving number, but no one or machine answered. So an example of that is the call completed routing, but was never answered by an agent, a receiving number, or anything else. So those are our different dialing statuses. Okay, so up next we have the call routing and actions. So the call routing either displays the agent or the call who the agent who the call was routed to, or you can manually decide an agent to associate the call to. So this would actually be the agent configured inside of the CTM users, which we'll be covering on Thursday. And then it'll show you where it was routed through. So if you're not using the Softphone, it'll show the receiving number where the call was routed. And then the call path on the bottom is showing any voice menus or call flow that the caller experienced. So then this is going to be the last column in the call log, which is going to be the email action icon, which will email a note with the recording of the call to a colleague or a client. And actually, it's a new feature that we just added that you can email to multiple people, which I wasn't actually aware was an issue. I just never tried to email it to more than 2. And then we have the flag icon, which is really handy because this is going to allow you to exclude calls. You can block callers, and you can also rate any audio issues. So if there's any quality problems, we would definitely recommend to flag those calls, because then that information will go directly to our providers so that we can look further into the issue. All right, so this is if you hit the flag option. We can have the option to exclude this call. So that will actually just remove it from the call log itself and its reporting. And then with that, we can exclude all past calls from that caller. So I have the option to exclude just that one, or if I really want to delete the history of this person, I can do that. That is just going to remove it from the call log. It's not going to delete every record of it. To do that, we have something called redaction, which is pretty new. Which I think we'll be covering on Thursday as well. So you can block future calls like this one. So you just want to be careful if you're doing that to make sure that that's a unique user, because if you're blocking something from someone like unknown, then we're going to block every caller from unknown. So you just want to be a little bit careful with that. And then if you're on our marketing plan, or a contact center plan, you could actually block this caller across your whole agency. So it'll look into all of your different sub-accounts. And then here's where you can rate the audio issue for this call. So if most people don't go in and rate them as great. It's cool if you do. Usually people are using these ones. So that is call feedback. So up next, we're going to be talking more in depth about the call filter. So the filter menu allows you to create, edit, and save views of the call log based on criteria that you select. You can manage your filters by clicking Manage Filters. You can customize them to be shown in the filter menu. So it's actually really handy to save filters. Like I said, when I used to be in the marketing department here, I would want to create a filter for all my paid campaigns so that all I would have to do, rather than going in and typing in all of my sources here every time, I would just come to the drop down and pick my paid filter, and then it would auto-populate all the stuff that I saved. So there's a lot of really, well, there's hundreds of use cases for a filter. So you could also do it by agents. So maybe you want to view certain agents' calls. You could do that. There's no limit to the amount of filters you can create and save. Now, as far as filtering, you can filter on things like dates, call tags, agents, the type of call. So that's really like activity, whether it's inbound, outbound forms, text messages. You can filter by tracking sources, tracking numbers, receiving numbers, statuses, key presses, transfer from, transfer to, ring time, talk time, total time, score, visitor data, whether or not this was a first-time caller, converted calls. You can actually have it show excluded calls. Yep, so lots of different ways that we can filter. Up next, we have the call log export. Now, what's pretty cool about the call log export is that it works with the filters. So if I created my my filter for all my paid campaigns, and then I actually wanted to export all those calls, I can actually use the filter I created and then select it in the export, so that the export will then filter to only my paid calls. We also have a few other options as far as formats for the call log export, so that you can get so that you can customize it, which we'll be going over in more depth later on today. All right, and then the last thing we have as far as the columns go is going to be the Softphone. So the Softphone is a browser-based phone that allows agents to accept inbound calls and make outbound calls. It is not Skype, as I learned from my internet phone campaign. So really, in order to use a Softphone, all you need is internet connection and a headset. I can tell you that all of our employees here at Call Tracking Metrics, we live off of the Softphone. It's pretty nice. Depending on what plan you're on, you can actually fully customize it to include certain buttons and create custom features for it. So that is the Softphone. You can switch to a quick live demo of that. So here we go. So if I just hit this, it's going to pop out my Softphone. Now, one of the things I can also do is put my statuses. So I could say that I'm actually accepting calls. And you can actually customize some statuses, so you can include other ones. So some common ones are like in a meeting, or lunch break, or BRB. So it will actually make the reporting a little cleaner about where you are. So it's not just accepting and not accepting, but those are the two by default. So I could say that I'm accepting calls. And then down here, these suggested ones is actually just looking at the call log, the most recent calls. And then we're going to give you some options to customize the information on your phone. So pretty cool. And you can actually switch to dark mode. I don't know if everyone knows about this. We do have, I guess, two different views you can have for call tracking metrics. So I used to not like dark mode, but now it's actually grown on me a whole bunch. But dark mode, light mode. And this is the Softphone beta. So with that, oh, yeah, as you expand it, it'll actually pull out the call log. So pretty cool. That's a Softphone. I'm going to stop accepting calls so that it doesn't ring. Okay. So what we're going to do is a quick working session. We actually already edited the score call fields and score to call. So what we'll do is we'll go ahead and create a custom filter and save it, and then we'll export the call log with that filter, and then we'll use the Softphone to place an outbound call. So let's go ahead and do that. So here is some things that we can do with our, actually let's go ahead and do this because we didn't add in all these different fields. So let's go ahead and switch back into the call log, which I forewarned you guys that we're going to be doing a lot of hopping between the different screens today. So I would come up to my calls tab, come to my call scoring. So I could rename this if I wanted to, just so that we can see the difference. I'm going to say sale. I'm going to name this sale too. Instead of converted amount, I'll say sale amount. Disable. Then sales, support. Maybe they were calling about employment. Maybe about appointment schedule. Mars. We'll take out lead. There we go. And save, actually disable notes and save my changes. So now if we head back, we now have a column named sale and not score. You can see rather than saying score, now underneath it says sale. And I now have my updated drop down. So I could say this person called about employment and they were a pretty good candidate. Obviously an employment wouldn't be marked as a sale. So go ahead and save that. Lovely. All right. So for the custom filter, what we're going to do, let's select the date range of this month. We're going to add the type of inbound call. We're going to remove the type of outbound calls. We're going to select the tracking source of website. We're going to select the reporting tag to include sale. We're going to set the total time to be greater than 120 seconds. We're going to set the score calls to be between 3 and 5 stars. And we're going to say, we're going to switch converted to is set, and then we're going to save our filter. So we're going to switch back into the call log. There we go. Okay. So to do this, I'm going to come to my filter icon here, select the time frame of this month. Here we go. And then we're going to add outbound text. All right. And then we're going to remove outbound calls. We're going to set the tracking source to include, which I just like to note that these are customizable. We could actually say include or exclude, or is not set or is set. So we're going to say include, say website. Actually, I don't have website in this one. So we're going to compromise, go with Google AdWords. We're going to scroll down to the reporting tag to include sale. Now you notice how it auto includes the ones that we created in the score column, because that's going to directly reflect those. We could add key presses, transfers, ring time, total time, talk time. And again, these can be dropped down. So you could say equals, does not equal, is greater than, is less than, is between. So lots of ways we can customize this. But we're going to say where the total time is greater than 120 seconds. Lots of different ones. So this is actually all pulling from a custom field, so we'll jump over that. So we're going to say that this rating is between 3 and 5, because we want this to be a good one. So we'll say sale is set. We'll leave the sale amount as blank, which will just be any sale amount. And then we can come up to the top here and say save filter. So I could simply name it and say something easily identifiable, like, oops, AdWords calls over 120 seconds. Probably say AdWords converted. Yeah, AdWords converted calls over 120 seconds. Hit save. So now it's been saved. So now I have that in my dropdown, and I can hit apply. Now, unfortunately, I didn't have any calls that match that criteria, but you get the gist of it. And then if I wanted to just refresh, if I hit that, it'll remove all of it, and then I can have my call log back. So that is using the filters, saving them. And then the next thing we can do is export them. So to do that, we would come to the export calls icon. We can click that. So the first thing you can decide is, how do you want this to happen? Do you want this to be an email or a file transfer protocol? We'll have an email. It's going to auto-populate my email that I'm signed in with. So that's where I got that. So this is going to be a filter, kind of like the search box. So if you wanted to filter based on something like, CPC, you could do that. But really what I want to do is use my saved filter. So I can scroll to the bottom. This filter is exactly the same as the one that we just looked at, all the same fields. But I can scroll down to the bottom and then select my saved one. And so that's going to apply my save filter to this export, which unfortunately I know will result in nothing being exported because I don't have anything that matches this criteria. So then we have a few options in regards to formatting to match what file type you like. So whether you want your phone number separated with brackets, we can do that, dashes, the plus for the country code. So lots of different ways you can have your phone number formatted. So this is typically people are exporting to maybe upload into their CRM. And a lot of times, they're very particular about the formatting being exact. So we give you the ability to customize this information. That one works good. Next one you can customize is the timestamp, so hours, minutes, seconds, or you can have just seconds. We have some export formats that you can use that are really handy. So you could do a CSV, Excel files. AdWords conversion will actually it'll create it in the format that you need to upload offline conversions into AdWords. So this is really handy if you're not using our Google Analytics integration. You can still export all that data and upload it into AdWords and get conversion data. Same goes for Bing and Marin. It's just going to format it in a way that these platforms will accept. But for this example, I'm just going to do a CSV file. And then you have the option to zip, have it be a compressed export. So why not? We'll go ahead and do that. And then you can decide all the different fields that you want to be included in your export. So there is a lot of options for you here. So there's really no right or wrong. You could actually say select all and have all the different columns that we're able to capture, export all of them, or we can unselect and then build it just on what information is relevant to you. So we have, maybe name, maybe the status, the tracking source, definitely. Lots of information about the search. So who referred them, what was the search query, what was the last recorded URL, what was the likelihood of the match that we made. If it was a text, what was in the body of it, duration, whole ton of these. So really, whatever is most relevant for your export, device, carrier, gender, email, sure. So all of that is now going to be the different fields to be included in my export. And then if I wanted to, I could actually schedule this to be a reoccurring export. So if I just want a one-time, I don't need to schedule it, or I could say daily, weekly, or monthly. So weekly, I think makes sense. And then we could say run at, I usually like to have them in my inbox in the morning. So I could say run at, 7 a.m. weekly, and then run export. So most of this pretty straightforward, very customizable to how your desired outcome. And that is exports. So that was our custom filter and save it. Then export the call log. We just did that. So the next thing is our browser-based phone. So to place an outbound call from the Softphone. So I'm doing a lot of screen jumping. So we can head back to our call log. So it is as simple as just clicking call, and that'll populate the phone number right here that I just clicked, and then I can say call, and that's going to place the outbound call. And because we have a script already made, it's going to load that right here. So that as an agent, I could say that to the person. I'm calling myself, so I can't answer it, so I can go ahead and hang that up. And then if I have my phone out here and then say accepting calls, I can actually receive calls to the Softphone. To do that, I would have to tell them to route to the Softphone. So we'll do that later on today, I believe. But that's as simple as it is to make outbound calls. Now, of course, you don't have to just click. You could go ahead and manually type a phone number in and then dial that. So then that'll tell me other stuff. I could actually send a text message to this person, which is pretty cool. It'll tell me the contact information about this person, what information it's able to pull. What's fun is it'll actually be able to show information. Let's go ahead and hang up. So that is the Softphone making outbound calls. Very straightforward. Save it. This is our enhanced caller ID information. One thing that's kind of fun about this, it's not always right, but it can pull some pretty cool information. This is me, but I am not Michelle Hahn. That is my mom. It actually will link to my social media profiles. So this is actually, it did a good job in that is me. So if anybody wants to connect with me on LinkedIn, feel free, here's the link. And then with that said, I think this is a great time to take a quick 10-minute break and then meet back at 3:10. So, and I will review the questions. I know I saw some coming in. All right, so take a quick 10-minute break. We'll meet back at 10 past the hour, and I'll review any questions that have come in since then. Hello? Come on in. I'm like, is somebody there? I'm like, does it lock?
I got number 1 3.
Okay, I'm like, oh, I should have cleared out all these, like, oh, you know what? I need to mute myself. All right, welcome back, everyone. I had a lot of questions come in over the break, or probably during the session. So one of the things people are asking for is a copy of the deck that I'm using. So let me actually I'm going to put into the group chat a link. I have the deck live under a pre-recording. So let me actually switch my screen. So if you click the link that I put in the chat, that'll bring you to this, which is a recording from, I think, my April class that I did. But under the handout sections right here, this is going to be a copy of the deck. Unfortunately, GoToWebinar has not let the handouts in the control panel work the last several times that I've tried to use them. So that's why I haven't been able to add them to the handout section, but you can go ahead and grab them from right here if you wanted to see them. Also, this is a recording of the class that I've done before. I'll be replacing this one with the class from today's recording, probably tomorrow morning. So that was a great question. Thank you for that one. Now let me address some of these other ones. So, here's a good one. This one was, when a call is excluded, does that data from the call still get shared with Google Analytics or Google AdWords? So that's a tricky question. So what happens is when you have call tracking metrics integrated with Google Analytics, as soon as the call is completed, we're going to trigger an event into Analytics. So if the call is excluded before the call ends, then it will not be sent into Analytics. Now, if it happens after the event has already been sent, there's not a way for us to proactively go into Analytics or AdWords and redact that information, unfortunately, at least not to my knowledge. Let's see, let me go through some of these other ones. Somebody was asking about adding custom panels to the score column in the call log. Now, let me come over here. Now, as far as editing under the call score column this way, there's not a way to add additional fields, but you can create custom panels. We'll be covering this, I believe, in Thursday's class by going to settings, custom fields. And then with those, you can create any type of custom layout. I can actually show you real quick one that I've created that I actually have hiding, which is my e-commerce. So this is a custom field that I had. So you can have with your custom fields and panels like different drop downs. You can have dependent fields. So if I select a category like truffles, that then all of a sudden all the different truffles we sell populate. So I think this is probably the answer that you were looking for in regards to adding things to the scoring column. You could just create a brand new one and add all the fields that are relevant to you. And I believe we'll be covering that on Thursday's class as well. Let me just review a few more of these questions. Actually, I think that's good for now. The way it breaks them up is kind of hard to put together. Okay. So again, if you're looking for the handouts, I put that link in the chat, which will bring you to this screen, and then the handouts is this link. So that information for you, you can grab that there. So let's continue on. We have some fun stuff to cover next. So up next, we're going to be covering, I believe, transcriptions, keyword spotting, and recordings. So these are all things that are going to be found under your call settings. So let me jump into the right screen. Okay. So next we're going to be talking about the call settings. We briefly touched on these yesterday as we were going through. So the call settings is really where you can customize how you want individual calls to be handled. You have the ability to create multiple configurations that can apply to one number or a group of numbers. Anything not having to do with routing or the source tracking, such as call recordings, transcriptions, announcement messages, and caller ID options, is likely configured in the call settings. So the first thing, we have recordings and transcriptions. So when running a successful business or call center, it is critical to stay on top of customer satisfaction and the performance of your staff. Call recordings provide you with a wealth of information that help you do just that. In your call settings, you'll have the ability to select whether you want to have just your inbound calls recorded or your outbound calls as well. Call recordings are a great tool for sales, training, and for management purposes so that you can never miss a detail. So one of the reasons why I personally love the recordings is that I most commonly, I take down email addresses wrong all the time, or even phone numbers or something like that. And it's really, really handy to be able to revisit that conversation to, recheck how what they said their email was or something like that. So from a personal use case, I find it really easy or really useful to do that, or even to double check things like order numbers and appointment dates. So call recordings never expire for the life of the account, allowing you to revisit the conversation from past dates as needed. The recordings can be configured to automatically be emailed or text to your team. Let's see. So let's actually switch into the view of the call settings because it will make it easier to see it rather than just talk about it. All right, so here we are. So to get to our call settings, we go to numbers, call settings. And one of the things that's important to know is that in order for your tracking numbers to work properly, they need to be associated with a call settings. So that's why after you purchase a number, it typically will take you to the call settings option so that you can add it to a call settings. And like I said a second ago, you can create multiple call settings groupings so that maybe a use case is maybe you have your HR department line. You don't want that to be recorded at all because personal information would be passed. So you might want to create a separate call settings for your HR department that actually has all recording disabled, so that as you transfer to that number, it will then stop recording the call. So there's some different use cases for that. So under your call settings, this is where you can customize your message that'll be heard. Now, by default, we have for quality assurance, this call may be recorded. We do require you to know your state's laws. Every area has different laws regarding announcing when things are being recorded. We're not going to hold you to it. That is up to you. But you could customize this in any which way. I call this it's kind of like a speak and spell. You type it all out and it will speak it for you. You can customize what accent and voice that it reads in, as well as I guess kind of the gender of the voice. So if you want a male, female, whatever, these are just different variations of the voice that will be speaking. You could upload your own recording. So this will turn your headset into, your microphone to record your audio. Or if you already have maybe a professional file that you paid for, you could upload that as well to be your announcement message. Now here's where we're going to either enable or disable recording for inbound, outbound. Now we do offer some enhanced features, so if you wanted these calls to be encrypted, we can do that for you for an additional small fee. We can do dual channel recording, which is pretty cool. And then we also give you the ability to record from the ringing. Typically, our call recordings start as soon as both sides of the call are online. And then next we have transcriptions. So this is really cool. This will actually transcribe the call. So it'll take the audio of the call and then basically turn it into like a script. So actually speaker segment it. We offer two different types of transcriptions. We have our basic transcription, which is decent, and then we have our enhanced transcription, which is really, really good. So the enhanced does cost almost double the price of the basic one, but I don't think we'll have time to do the comparison between the two today. This one will be word for word exactly what was spoken, and this one is a little bit more like drunk texting. It'll be a little bit scrambled, but you're going to be able to make out what it was saying. So it's really how the level of quality that you prefer. These are definitely readable. It just might have a few things wrong here and there. Why this one will be exact, pretty much exact. You can put a limit to how long it'll transcribe the call because we do charge per minute. So some people might say, after 10 minutes, let's stop transcribing it. Up to you. So, and this will also give you the ability to include transcriptions and notification emails. So this is actually really nice. So when you create something like a voice menu, to have the ability to have your voicemail be transcribed, because I'm an Apple user and I actually love how they do that, how they transcribe the voicemails rather than listening to them. I would much prefer to read it than listen. So we give you basically the same capability right here. So this is our basic caller ID that's going to be, included with every account. And then, like I was showing you briefly before, we have our enhanced caller ID, which we do charge a little extra for. But with that, we're going to be able to tell you things like their social media profiles, their average household income, the age of the caller. There's a lot of really cool information we're able to capture, and we only charge when we capture that information. So just a little customizing. You have the ability to show the tracking number as the caller ID for calls. So that's if you're trying to protect information or use national formatting. So we have our spam detective. This is something that you can enable. It does cost a little bit more, but what it will do is it's our little guy who will help recognize calls that have been flagged as spam. And then you have the option to decide how to handle these. So one is to have it solve a simple CAPTCHA. So that might be something like using the keypad saying 1 + 1 = what, and they'd have to hit 2. The thing with that is robo dialers, even auto dialers, spam, like bot dialers, they won't be able to apply logic like that. So you could say, if they don't do it, they can't solve the CAPTCHA, then disconnect the call. Or you could route to a voice menu or tag the call. So we give you some additional ways to handle spam calls to potentially prevent them from reaching your agents, so that it doesn't waste, anyone's time. So you can also assign whisper messages that'll play to the agent. So this will actually be something that the agent hears while the caller will still hear ringing. So you might want to say, this is probably more common for like lead sellers to say, call from this agency or something like that. Or you can even have it announce the source so that people know that this is a Google AdWords call or something like that. So you can get creative with how you want to use the whispers or if you want to use them at all. You can have an automatic text message response for anyone who calls in. This can be really handy for doing something like how this is our Coco Loco, this is a chocolate store, so maybe after everyone calls in, I want to send them a text message with a promo code to receive, 20% off their next purchase or something like that, and thank them for their call. So there's some cool things you can do around there. And then most importantly, all the numbers need to be assigned to the tracking, to the call settings. There we go. So let's see, something we can show transcriptions for the sake of time. Let me see, this got my voicemail. So this actually, you guys heard this, this call has been forwarded to an automated voice messaging system. So this had the enhanced caller ID, and you can see that it was pretty good. It got it exact. Now, the next thing we're going to talk about is keyword spotting. Now, keyword spotting is pretty cool. So that's going to be built off of our transcriptions. So what our keyword spotting does is you can have our system take certain actions when words are spoken. So in this case, this is our chocolate store. Now, if someone, show some that I've already created. So if a phone call comes in and somebody says something like, truffles or truffles, then I want to tag the call with truffles so that at just a quick glance, I'll know that this caller was interested in truffles. So I created a few rules. So one for cakes, we have another category that was dipped and dunked, which is really just chocolate covered items. So if anyone says, any combination of these words or individual words, that it will take the action of tagging that call as dipped and dunked. So then at a glance, I know what the call was in regards to. Now, another fun way we can use that is if they say something like, purchase, buy, payment, or credit card. These are all words that indicate that this was a sale being taken. So if somebody says any of these words, we can have it tag the call as sale and actually tag it with the keyword as well. There's a lot of other actions we can have it do. So we could tell it to send a text message, send an email. We could say convert this call and say, that it was worth $85. We could, I think we can score the call. So we could say that, score it with 5 stars. So anytime during the conversation, if somebody says either purchase, buy, payment, or credit card, the system is going to assume that this is a sale, tag it with the word sale. It'll actually tag it with the keyword that was said. So if I said credit card, it would tag it with sale and credit card, convert it for $85, and add 5 stars. There we go. So keyword spotting is there's so many creative use cases for it. I almost wish I could do a whole class on keyword spotting because it's so much fun. Internally here at Call Tracking Metrics, we do a lot of keyword spotting contests between the staff. Because say something like this university we want to promote. So what we'll do is we'll do a keyword spotting rule for I think actually across all departments. So whoever mentions the academy the most received a prize. So we created a keyword spotting rule for CTM Academy, and I think Training Academy. So anytime those words were spoken, then it would tag the call with Academy. And then because it was a tag, then I can create a filter by agent and then see which agent was actually pushing the academy the most, and then we rewarded them. So that's my creative use case for keyword spotting. Other people use it. I know we have a lot of clients that are car dealerships. So they have keyword spotting rules for maybe make and model, new versus used. Is this person looking for a sedan, an SUV, a sports utility vehicle? So they can create different rules and then tag the call, accordingly. So it really makes I think in the audio industry, those are really long calls. So a call manager is not going to really want to sit there and have to listen to the whole recording to understand, what this call was about. Using keyword spotting makes it really easy so that when you look at the call log at just a glance, you'll know what that call is about and how it's important to your business based on how you set it up. So there's a lot of really cool things that you can do with keyword spotting rules. All right. So that was keyword spotting, which is they're just fun. There's a lot of fun things that you can do for them. And another way to use them, I gave kind of all positive ways, but you can also use keyword spotting for when things are going negatively. So you can have keyword spotting identify things like curse words or like upset, angry, and then maybe have it then send an auto text message or a notification to the manager alerting them that this call wasn't a good call, and maybe score the call as poor quality or upset customer, things like that. Maybe give it 1 star. So the spam detective, we briefly touched on that. So it's going to help prevent spam calls from reaching your agents, which will just save time and help increase sales because your agents will actually be talking to people and not having to deal with robo-dialers. Okay, so this is call settings and how to get there, which we already went over as well. And we already enabled recording for outbound calls. We enabled the transcriptions. And this is if we wanted to put an auto text. So we could do something, fun like, thanks for contacting us, respond with spring and receive a promo code. So that would actually be using a text trigger response that if somebody actually responded to this text, that it would send them an additional text that would send them a promo code. So there's a lot of really cool use cases for those. Unfortunately, we just don't have the time to get into all of them today because we have lots of fun stuff to cover still. So transcriptions, I just don't think we have the time to place a call and have it live transcribed. But we did hear my voicemail thing, so we got a little dose of that. We already saw some keyword spotting rules. Okay. So this is into our second section today. So the next thing, we've really covered in depth the call log, but just like we have the call log, we actually have the text log as well. So texting, most of our tracking numbers are text capable. You can see that when you purchase them, whether or not it is text enabled. So there's so many creative ways that you can use texting, and then you can create automated responses with them. So let's actually real quick take a look at that. So here is our call log, and just like we have a call log, we have a text log. So I did have that one that says that was an auto response for anyone who filled out the form, or who called in, which is just thanking them for their interest and saying we'll be in touch soon. And then you can create text triggers, which would be auto responses to text. So in the case that I showed before, if somebody responded to that text with a promo code, then we could send them different information. So here's one that we already have created. This is going to be for a Google AdWords text message extension. So in this case, we're going to tell it if the type is an inbound text, then we want to tag this campaign as, AdWords SMS campaign, and then thank them for their interest, and then send them a link that'll get them to a special promo code. And then I could also have this send an email to manager@CocoLoco to tell them that they have a new message, and then put little bits of information about that text itself. So it's like creating a notification. So that's a real quick overview of our texting capabilities. So one of the next things we're going to cover is call schedules. So you can actually set up different, you can create schedules for each of your agents, a specific call queue, and a voice menu. We'll walk you through actually creating the schedule. Schedules will determine when a particular configuration will ring. For example, you may wish to set a schedule for a typical Monday to Friday workday, and then one for an after hours during the week, and maybe one for the weekend. So I'm actually going to show you some that I've pre-configured in this account. I think we're going to be a little time short today. So I feel like we're on a little bit of a time crunch. So if we come to our numbers tab and then go to schedules, here's a few schedules we already have created. So business hours, this is going to be our typical 9 to 5, Monday through Friday. So let me show you how this is handled. So the first thing you want to do is, of course, name your schedule because you'll be applying this in different places. So you really want to make it as easy to understand what it is as possible. So here's where I can select, 9 to 5, and then I selected it to be Monday through Friday. We have a few quick jumps if you wanted for those. So here I have my after hours during the work week. Now these are a little bit different because it doesn't loop. So we would have to do midnight to 9 a.m. and then 5 p.m. to midnight. Hopefully that makes sense. So we have our 2 times. Now, these make it really nice when we're using things like voice menus and call queues. So if I know that all of my agents in my sales call queue get off work at 5, there's no need to continue to ring to them. I could have it then stop ringing to them and then go to an after hours voicemail. So just like we have after hours during the week, we can do an after hours for the weekend, which would just be all day Saturday and Sunday. And then maybe I want a custom, voicemail for that. That's, we'll reopen again on Monday, something like that. So that schedules, they're pretty straightforward. There's no limit to the amount of schedules that you can have. So you could even create a custom schedule for all of your agents, for your different call queues. And then, maybe you don't need to create one for each individual agent. Maybe they can share them. So lots of different use cases for schedules. Okay, up next we have notifications. So notifications provide instant visibility into your advertising, call tracking programs. So you can really customize when your notifications go out. Call notifications are customized reports or alerts that can be strategically sent after every call, text, or forum entry. Notifications can also be sent as daily, weekly, or monthly digest. They are flexible and easy to define to enhance your overall workflow. For example, you might want to receive a phone call or a text message each time a new phone call comes through one of your specific tracking sources. And another use case is, marketers, we always need to, I feel like, extra provide visibility into our value. So maybe you're an agency and you want to send at the end of the day to your client a notification that's going to include like all of the calls that you drove to, that your maybe AdWords or marketing campaigns have driven to that business, and then include things like the transcript, whether or not this call was converted, so that it's really, surfacing your value that you're providing to that client. So that could be, on a daily basis, weekly, or monthly. And notifications will allow you to customize the days that you receive them as well. So up next is IVR menus. These are voice menus that allow the caller to press keys for quick routing to the correct place. Now, IVR menus, I think, are one of the they're just so relevant for routing people to the right department as quickly as possible. We use them here at Call Tracking Metrics. I know a lot of our clients use them. And so rather than having a receptionist, taking the calls, vetting them to see what department they want, the person can very easily, press 1 for sales, 2 for support, 3 for HR, very quickly get into the right hands as quickly as possible without having to go through multiple touch points. You can also choose which tracking numbers should ring to each voicemail. You can set them up to be on schedules. You can do things like have route to a particular queue. You can route to a destination landline or mobile phone. You can send callers to a virtual voicemail. Yep, so we're actually going to be setting up a IVR menu in just a moment. So, and then as far as IVRs go, a voicemail is another type of IVR, which are really cool. So everyone could have their own voicemail. You can set it, to ring after hours to have it send a recording. And then, of course, it really eliminates the need for having answering machines anymore. And this is free. Answering machines are usually like an add-on thing. So we can create a custom voicemail box. We can then email you or even send you a text alert when you receive a message. We can have the audio of that voicemail included as well as the transcription. So we have 20 minutes to try to do all of this. So I think I'm going to jump over the schedules because that's pretty straightforward. If anyone has any questions about the schedules, let me know and I will try to address them once we get through this workshop. Schedules, voicemail. So we'll create a voicemail and then we'll go in and we'll create a voice menu. So let's go ahead and do this step. So what we're going to do is we're going to create an IVR menu. We're going to select which numbers to dial. We're going to set receiving numbers. We're going to name it. And then we're going to create a greeting. This is easier to show than to talk about. So I'm going to jump back into my account. Now for this, I'm going to switch out of my demo account and go into my account that we created yesterday. So what we're going to do is go to numbers and voice menus, which IVR, I believe, stands for interactive voice recordings. I might be wrong. So once we select it, because we don't have any created, it's going to drop us right into a configuration. Now we do have some nice things right here. These are our guides. They're going to actually walk you through how to do it. So if we wanted to create a voicemail, this makes it real easy. It's going to show us how to do it. It's going to say select voicemail preset, voicemail. I can say next. It's going to tell me to enter the play message, which is what the user will hear. Please leave a message after the beep. Pretty generic, but it works for me. And then I can hit next. And then I think it's just going to tell me to save. Oh, so tag this call as a voicemail. I would actually recommend doing this. So we can do that. Because what's fun about these tags is then we can do reporting for them. So if I wanted to filter for all my voicemails, I could do that, and then it would create a call log that is showing just voicemails. So, and then save changes, and just like that, my voicemail box is ready to go. All right, so the next thing we wanted to do was to create a new IVR menu. which would be our main greeting. So we'd come here and say new voice menu. For this one, I'm going to name it my main, I'm just going to say main routing business hours. So had we created a schedule, this is where I would select them. So say during business hours to ring to my business hours schedule. But because we didn't have time to do that, we'll leave that for next time. So this is where my main greeting would go, and this is where we need to tell the caller, what to do. So it's where I might put something like, I'm sorry, I'm really bad at talking and typing at the same time. So let's say, thank you for calling. Please press 1 for sales, 2 for support, 3 for employment, 4 for appointment, scheduling, and 5 to leave a message. And again, I could customize the voice, the accent, the reader. I could record my own, or I could upload a recording that I already had. So at this point, if somebody interacts with this menu, I could tag the call. I don't really have a good use case for that, for this tag, unless it was like business hour routing. We'll just leave that off. We can allow agents to transfer callers to this menu. So maybe somebody got into the wrong department and I wanted to send them back to the main menu so that they could select where they wanted to go. I could do that. So why not? We'll go ahead and save that. All right. Now we could do speech recognition. This is pretty cool. So rather than actually using the keypad to press 1, they could say sales and it would use voice recognition to route to the sales. So we can enable that. This is just a few housekeeping things. We're only doing 1 through 5, so it really only needs to be 1 digit. We can say how long should we wait for the caller to input their selection. So wait 7 seconds. I could then type in a message, something like, oh, we didn't get that, or sorry, try again. And then I could say, how many times do I want to give this person to, enter correctly? And then what do I want to do if, after 5 times they, just haven't entered it correctly? I could say hang up the call, route to a different menu, or dial a number. In this case, we can almost safely assume that it's probably a bot if after 5 times they weren't able to press 1 through 5. So I think we're good. So here's how we're going to handle our key presses. So if somebody presses 1, we don't want to hang up. What we want to do is we can dial a number. We could send a text message. We could call an agent. So in this case, I could say call agent, and I could say sales. I could play a message like connecting you to our sales team. And then I could select which agent, say ring to me. We could also route to a call queue. That would probably be the ideal scenario. We just haven't created any yet. We're going to be doing that in Thursday's class. All right, so that was my number 1. So if they press 2 or say support, I could then again say something like connecting you to our support team. And then I could have it dial a number. So I could have it dial my receiving number. Now, it does give us some options to add additional things. So I think this is a great place to add a tag. So in this case, somebody, if they press 1, I could say tag it as sales call. So I know this person is calling about sales. this person is calling about support, so maybe I want to tag this as support call. And we're going to add another one. This is 3. 3 is for employment. So I could come here in case they say, I will just say HR. We have to select where to route it. And then I'd probably want to tag it as employment. Add another one. So this one was going to be appointment scheduling. So with this, what it's going to do is it's actually going, you could press 4 or speak it. Again, we'll route to that line. And then I'm going to tag this call as appointment scheduling. And then lastly, the option for 5 was going to be to leave a voicemail. So what I could do instead of rather than dial a number, say use voice menu. And then it's going to have me select which voice menu I want to send them to. So I created a voicemail, so that sounds right. So if they press 5, it's then going to route to the voice menu we just created a minute ago. And we could also put in the voice recognition. So if they say voicemail, it will automatically route them. And we tagged the voicemail as voicemail, so we don't have the need to tag this too, because it's best to only have that handled in one place. So we can leave that there. And we're looking good. The last step, of course, is to add our numbers that we purchased and configured yesterday to route to our IVR menu. So we can hit save changes. Now our 2 numbers, if anyone calls them, they will be routed to this and they'll hear our lovely message and then go through accordingly. So let's actually place a test call and see if we are set up properly. So let me go to tracking numbers, make sure they are set up to route properly. I'm going to sign into my Google account to place the call. Okay, so I'm just going to use my Google phone. So here we go. I'm just going to grab this tracking number and I'm going to unplug so that hopefully we can all hear this. And come here. We have no calls, so this will be our first call. And actually, I'll do the desk mode, it'll look better. There we go, say accepted calls. Now I'm going to press 1 for sales. I'll actually speak it because that should route to me, I believe. So let me paste in my number.
Thank you for calling. Please press 1 for sales, 2 for support, 2 for employment,
Sales.
4 for appointment scheduling, and 5 to leave a message.
Sales. Oh, I have to press it. Did it die? I think my call disconnected. Maybe I did that.
Thank you for calling. Please press 1 for sales, 2 for support.
Why is it ending the call? Let's see what that looked like. It's not connecting them. Why are you not connecting? This is live demos. We run into problems. I think that's due with my keypad.
Thank you for calling. Please press 1 for sales, 2 for support.
Let's saying I hung up. So let's double check, see what is happening. I don't believe I configured it that if I press 1 to hang up, but who knows? Maybe I made an error. Oh, that's voicemail. Oh, it didn't save. So that's what happened. Somehow my whole setup didn't save, but the numbers did. So that's why it's hanging up. Lovely. It's also why we should save as we go. So we'll say call agent. Let's then go select me. Say connecting you to sales. And then we want to add the action of tag this call as sales call. I'm going to save, make sure an agent on this file is fine. Add another one, and we'll just make this one our key press of 5, and then say voice menu, this one, then set this one of 5. So there we go. Sorry about that. Let's try again. So that should have saved properly.
Thank you for calling. Please press 1 for sales, 2 for support,
Sales.
2 for employment, 4 for appointment scheduling. You've reached the voicemail of Jessica Michaels. Please leave your name, number, and
So what I forgot to do, practice makes perfect. Now that we're routing properly, you can see it actually tagged it and it rang to me, but I forgot to be accepting calls. So it went right to my voicemail. So I want to say accept calls, and let's do our last one where it should ring here. This is my 5th try. 5th try is a charm.
thank you for calling. Please.
So now if we jump over here, we can see that I am ringing. Hooray. Answer
Connect you
it.
to sales.
And we heard that it was connecting. All right, we're just gonna not do that because there's a lot of feedback. But yeah, so that was a semi-successful demo. Not my best, not my worst, but we were able to successfully route. It was tagging, it rang to me like it was supposed to. What I did unsuccessfully was save as I go. So that was creating a voicemail, an IVR menu. We touched on schedules. It is almost 4 o'clock, so we are short on time. Let's see, the last thing we were going to do was create a notification. Notifications are pretty straightforward, so we're going to hop over that and come right to any questions. So if you have any questions, please type them into the question box. I know your time is important. I'll have to come up with a way to kind of shorten this class so that I can fit more into it without having to jump over so much stuff. So let me look through the questions. Okay, let me see. So somebody says, after a call is transferred to an agent, if the agent doesn't answer, is there any way to have them leave a message on call tracking, not the agent's phone? Yeah, so within the agent themselves in my Softphone, sure, let me pop out. I can create a voicemail, which would be right in here. So that's when I can say, email it to me, transcribe it, and put my own voicemail in. So each agent can have its own customizable voicemail that'll be saved inside of CTM. I hope I answered that to what you were looking for. Let's see, here's another one. So let me see if I understand this. It says when you're choosing the functionality in different categories, let's say we set up a campaign for one client and we want to use the same settings for another client. So that would be agency-wide presets. We do allow those. That will actually be covered in day 4, so Thursday. We'll talk about more of the agency settings. So we do allow you to save configurations at an agency level, and then there'll be presets inside of each sub-account. So yes, we are able to do that. Great question. Not seeing a lot of questions coming in. Oh. Somebody says, if we missed yesterday's webinar, can we get access to the link? Yes, so there's a few different places. One is inside of our YouTube. I already have yesterday's class uploaded. So let me just plug in our channel thing here and put that into the chat. So that'll get you to it. And then as well as inside of the training hub here, we have them uploaded by each day. So I haven't uploaded the one from yesterday yet. So this is the one from April, but it's the same material. If you're looking for exactly yesterday's class, I did upload it to YouTube, so it does live there. Someone said, are there any additional costs for some of the extra features? Yes, and they will be clearly listed when you enable them. So for a reference to that, if you're under your call settings and say something like encrypted call recordings, those are, what is that? A fraction of a penny per minute. Transcriptions, if those were enabled, those are 4 cents. So anything that you're enabling that's going to have an additional cost, we're going to let you know up front. It's a mix between included and not included. So like call recordings included with every plan, no problem. Encrypted call recordings, they're going to be a little extra. Dual channel recordings, those will be a little extra. And the prices will vary based on what plan you're on. So if you're looking at the same information and you're seeing the prices are different, that's just going to be in reflection to what plan you're currently on. So great question. All right, well, I'm not seeing any additional questions coming in. So the last thing I always like to do is to point people to our help resources because we have many of them. So one of the first ones is inside of each configuration. If you go to the info right here, this will pop out and give you some quick helps. So this will be a guide of going through the settings. More information will take you to an actual help article regarding this setting that you're currently in. If you come to our help, we have our quick help here. This will be a pop-up that'll give you a few quick searches. That'll be guides. You can type in any question here and it will route you to the most relevant help articles, as well as we have a getting started tab. And then inside of our help drop-down, we have our help center. You can chat with us, you can call in, you can create tickets, and we'll respond to those. We do have some paid support options for you. We like to say that's where we do the heavy lifting. So if you want us to do all the configurations for you, we're happy to. We have a whole team that's there to help you with that. We have a blog that's a great resource for things like case studies. We have a status report, API documentation. We have our training hub. That's where you're going to find lots of videos and more more direction on how to create things. The Academy, of course, that's what we're in today. We're going to be taking a summer break and revisiting this in September if you wanted to attend again, but we always have our pre-recorded sessions available as well. If you're a new user, we have an onboarding program for you, and then we also do API hours. These are really helpful. These are just an hour, I believe, with our engineers, and it's just open conversation Q&A. So that's a great way to get a hold of them and have a conversation. So with that said, I don't believe I saw any more questions coming in. So thank you all, and I hope to see you tomorrow and throughout the week. So have a great day. Take care. Bye.